AP Euro Bros. Let's start it off, shall we?
Good morning. Today we'll be talking about how to survive AP Euro. Lad here will be telling you the first tip.
The first tip in AP Euro is to never procrastinate.
This is important for every class, but since there's so much reading in Euro, you have to stay on top of it even more. The second tip is
use Learning Curve 2 to study for your test, because Learning Curve questions are always similar to the questions on the test.
In the beginning of the year, I would procrastinate a lot for this class. I failed a lot of tests because of it, and so then I had to decide to start reading and studying a few nights before the test, and because of that, my test grades went up and I started doing better.
the third tip is YouTube videos. You can watch a lot of videos by different YouTubers to better understand your chapter.
My favorite YouTubers for AP Euro were Tom Ritchie and Paul Sargent. They had great explanations on many of the European sections in the class, and I thought they were a great help.
So on the topic of YouTube here, oftentimes I would find the book a little bit confusing and misleading or something, so I'd always turn to my man Paul Sargent, and he would dumb it down for me a little bit, simplify the topic.
The fourth tip of our video is
To get a general understanding of each AP Euro section, you don't need to know specific facts or anything too complex. Just understand the impact the sections have on Europe.
the fifth and final tip is
To get a good night's sleep and eat a healthy breakfast.
this will help refresh your brain and keep you alert during the test.
That's it from Guy and Lad.
Let's send it over to Man and Dude.
Hey, I'm Dude,
And I'm Ben.
and we're going to be talking about the AP exam.
Yo! What is up, Ruteki Period 2 AP Euro class? I got my bro and I right here, and today we're going to be talking about what you can do to prepare for the AP Euro exam.
Okay, so about a month before the AP exam, you should start studying a chapter a night, which will lead you up to about a week before the exam, and then you want to study again, just to go over the stuff you don't know, and
Just keep
that's the
going.
best
Study
way to study
one
for it.
tonight. There are 4 parts of the AP Euro exam. Count them 4. My bro here is going to tell you all of them starting now. Let's go.
Okay, so there's the multiple choice, the short answer, the LEQ, and the DBQ. Okay, for the multiple choice, you have 55 minutes to answer 55 stimulus questions.
The 55 questions are divided up quarterly according to each time period. There are 4 of them, starting from the 1300s all the way up to the 1500s, maybe up to the 1700s, the 1800s, 1900s. Know all that. Don't overthink the questions when you get to them. You can eliminate 2 options usually because they're from 2 different time periods, and yeah, just keep it going.
Okay, for the short answer, you have 50 minutes to answer 4 questions.
The 4 short answer questions will also be divided up quarterly among different time periods in history. You don't really need to know a lot of the specific information, just be able to provide examples for each question, and yeah.
So next is the DBQ. The DBQ is basically just an essay in which you're given 7 sources to use in order to prove a thesis that they give you also.
There are 7 possible points you can get from your DBQ essay, and the first 2 I suggest that you should focus on are providing a thesis which answers all parts of the questions: the when, the who, the where, the what, the how. Everything that pertains to the question, just answer, write in that thesis, everything. The second possible point that you can get is providing contextualization in the opening paragraph, talking about the broader background of history, including everything that occurred before the question took place. The next 2 points that you want to get during your DBQ writing is that you want, from the 7 documents that you are given, you want to somehow analyze 6 of them, giving the information back in your essay and explaining how that is relevant to the question. Another point that you want to get is going further in depth and analyzing 4 of them. You can use the purpose of the article or the document. You can do point of view of the article or document. You can do the context of it, the audience, anything that you can think of. Just go in depth with it. The next 3 points that you want to get in your DBQ essay is that you want to draw an argument between all of your documents that you were given. Just connect them and how they are relevant to each other and stuff like that. You will get the point, for sure. The next one that you want to get is evidence beyond the document. Just provide one specific example, whether it's like a war, a battle, or anything that pertains to a document or anything really that's stated in your essay. The last one that you want to do is probably, well, in my opinion, the easiest. It's definitely the synthesis. The synthesis is where you have to connect your question to, like, whether it was like, explain why this happened during the time period of this. Explain that time period to another time period, or like go and how it explained over time the changes in Europe.
You have about 30 minutes to write the LEQ. The LEQ is basically just a standard essay.
Now there are 6 possible points in the LEQ essay. The 6 of them are kind of similar to the DBQ. It's just like your standard essay, basically, as my buddy Dude said over here. So basically what you want to do is provide a thesis that connects to the question, answers all parts of it. Then you want to explain like how, explain the answer, like your answer. Next you want to just synthesize, and that's about it. You should explain. Yo, okay, so lad, dude, checking out, going to the game show. We're gonna bring in some special guests, yeah. Hey, wrong button, yeah. Oh, wait, elevator's out of order. Let's go.
Alrighty, folks, it's about time to get crack-a-lacking with this year-old game show. Alright, how's it going? I'm Dude, and I'm here with my man.
I'm Rasputin.
Alright, and I got a question to ask him. What were the documents that were given to people who paid to be redeemed for their sins?
Indulgences.
Right off the bat, what a champ.
I'm here with Peter the Great. We're going to ask him a question for our game show. What was the system of rotating fields in order to have good soil for farming? 3, 2.
Open field system.
Wow, he's amazing.
Hey, I'm here with third guest.
Your boy Napoleon.
Who was the great military leader that took over France towards the end of the revolution and later became the emperor?
Napoleon.
That's all we got today, folks, for the game show. Now, I'm going to give a quick rundown on European history. Start things off with the Italian Renaissance, which occurred from the 1300s to about the 1500s. The Renaissance was basically just the rebirth of classical Greek and Roman ideas to move past the dark time, what was referred to as the dark times during the medieval ages. 3 new concepts were introduced during this time period, in which they were humanism, individualism, and secularism, in which things were more valued if they were materialistic rather than religious or something like that. Next, let's move on to the Protestant Reformation, which approximately occurred from the 1400s to the 1600s. The Protestant Reformation was sparked through by the selling of indulgences, in which the Pope would sell a pardon for one's sins, and that angered a lot of devout Christians, and it caused some people like Martin Luther to break off from the church and formulate their own religion, which is now known today as Protestantism. During the Protestant Reformation, Europe experienced the Age of Absolutism, in which an absolute ruler would emerge from many of the countries and would take absolute rule over the country, meaning one religion, one government, one state,
one everything, one economy, everything. Since in an absolute monarchy, it was one ruler, one religion, there was a large debate over whether it should be a Catholic practicing country or a Protestant practicing country. There were many religious wars fought over this discussion. The scientific revolution, the age of exploration, the Enlightenment, and the agricultural revolution all go hand in hand with each other, as all of them occurred from roughly the 1500s all the way up to the late 1700s. The age of exploration introduced new lands to the Europeans, as they eventually were able to take advantage of them and capitalize off them, using new techniques from the agricultural revolution and the scientific revolution that bettered their society. The Enlightenment also offered ideas of religious toleration throughout Europe and the abolishment of serfdom. Drawing inspiration from the Revolutionary War between the US and the British, France ended up going through their own revolution, in which was a very violent process. This revolution occurred in the late 1700s due to the heavy taxation of peasants in France, the very low representation of peasants in the bourgeoisie in France, despite making up almost 98% of the population. In addition, bread prices were soaring due to bad harvests in which low grain and bread were produced. Eventually, the French got what they wanted and replaced Louis XVI with the National Committee of Public Safety, in which was led by Robespierre, and was a very violent phase of France. Historians often refer to Robespierre's rule of France as the Reign of Terror, as they used guillotines to kill many dissenters. Robespierre was eventually overthrown, and Napoleon Bonaparte was placed on the throne. Napoleon Bonaparte was not what they ended up wishing for, since he was an absolute ruler, and that did not offer much change from Louis XVI. We now take a huge time jump and now go to the revolutions of 1848, occurring in France, Austria-Hungary, and Prussia. In short, these revolutions were just an attempt by the civilians of each country to move past the outdated political system in each of their corresponding countries. The Italian and German unifications occurred through a rise of nationalism within Europe. The Italian unification and the German unification occurred from the 1850s up until the 1870s. Territory was gained and unified with existing territories to fully unify the nations. Last but not least, at least for this video, we're going to be touching on World War I and World War II, occurring from the early 20th century up until the mid-1950s. So, these wars occurred out of European militarism, the formation of alliances between European nations, the effect of imperialism on several nations, especially in Africa, and nationalism. Nationalism being probably the biggest component of these wars. Following the aftermath of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed within the European nations, including the USA, to basically blame Germany for the war and make them accept the fact that they had started it. This ultimately led Germany to being very frustrated under the new rule of Adolf Hitler, and they began starting and pushing for World War II, in which was fought and Germany was eventually defeated by the USSR and the USA's attack on their bases. That's all we got for today, folks. Let's wrap it up by saying a see.